Oh, we're back up on a high. This week is decent as far as I'm concerned. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Ante Up with me, Dave, him, Matt. We'll be doing the usual shenanigans. We'll be looking at last week's racing results, anything that's worth noting. One race is definitely not worth noting. We'll be looking forward to the weekend's action to see what might be coming up, any clues, bits and pieces like that. And of course, we'll be giving you some selections. Now, I think it's fair to say that last week's episode, I don't think it was my strongest episode, not just in the fact of the selection. I think we both looked a little bit broken, to be fair. I was a little bit. The week prior, I was saying to Matt, this has been the best episode we've ever recorded. So polar opposites, but we're back up on a high. This week is decent as far as I'm concerned. So I'll stick with the usual theme, saying that I'm not going to warble too much. I'll let Matt speak, and I'll just keep talking for as long as possible. Feedback, comments, all that stuff below. Like, I genuinely do appreciate it. Like, I don't take offence to too much, to be fair, unless someone's just being a dick for the sake of it. So constructive criticism, I do like all that sort of stuff. I know I can be a bit bullish, etc., but yeah, it's just the way I am. Also, like the video, or thumbs down it if you don't really like it, but like it probably, and subscribe to the channel if you can as well. We've got 70% of the people watching these videos not subscribed to the channel. So thanks for watching and thanks for the support, but just subscribe. I mean, if you're going to troll me and you just want to watch it for the sake of it, just subscribe. You'll get more people on there, more abuse. Enough said with that. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, really looking forward to this weekend in particular and starting to ramp up then till Dublin Racing Festival, Cheltenham this week. All good stuff, mate. Yeah, loving it.
Definitely. And that's interesting you mentioned the Dublin Racing Festival as well, because we've got the entries now already for the Saturday and the Sunday. So there's something that I've been already paying a bit of attention to, partly because of this show, but nothing from Dublin Racing Festivals will be mentioned in this one. I think I will do another previewy thing. Looking forward to those because there's some handicap entries that are well worth noting for the spring festivals, not even necessarily just Cheltenham. And then obviously we've got Festival Trials Day this weekend. Then it'll be Sandown before we know it, or Kempton, sorry, for the Adonis and the Dovecote. Then it's basically Cheltenham, isn't it?
Yeah, nearly there now.
Right. This week, I mean, timing-wise, I felt like it was a good number last week, but I think there's a couple of people that wanted it a little bit longer. So we're not going to rush through. We're not going to skip anything that doesn't need to be said, but at the same time, we're not just going to pad it out for the sake of padding it. He says while he pads it out. What we're going to do, Matt, is we're going to go through the results from last week. I feel like a little bit of back and forth until we run out of results to talk about. So I'll let you go first to talk about, no, it doesn't have to be your most notable result of last week, but something that you think needs to be mentioned.
I think Roxana was really impressive, mate. I really do. I think she needs a real mention, and I think 3 miles is a trip. I'd give her another chance against the boys in the stayers hurdle. That's the way I'd go. I know they're probably 50-50 between that and the mares, but it'd be the stayers hurdle for me, mate. With her, I think she's got to go that way for me. Yeah,
she's definitely got to go stayers. I would disagree. I can't see how she can beat Time Hill or Paisley Park, but I've been wrong before, and she was definitely impressive for the weekend. I could like the terms and all that sort of things. Like, I know Magical Light was coming over, and the ground was like probably not slow enough for Magical Light to show her best. But like that, Roxana's like a decent mare, isn't she?
Yeah.
I feel like she should have been a lot shorter. So, seeing as you've mentioned Ascot and you've swerved Newbury for me already, so thanks for that, mate. Tritonic for Alan King, or how you Northerners say it, Tonic. He stayed on nicely, didn't he? I know that there was winning distances that suggest probably the front two are probably like okay-ish horses. I'm just semi let down by the fact that he talked about the Adonis, and he even said potentially the Dovecote, because obviously if he runs in the novice hurdle, he'll get the weight for age allowance. I was a bit just bored by him. I think he's probably too good to go in a Boodles, or they won't run him in a Boodles. They'll think he's too good. I wasn't really that impressed with him. Sounds a bit bizarre because it's not really based on a great deal, but I'd rather see him go to Aintree, if I'm honest. I'd rather just swerve Cheltenham and then go to Aintree, a bit of a fresh horse, taking the Kempton race in between, of course, because the Adonis can sometimes be quite weak. But yeah, I wasn't blown away with it. What did you make of him?
The same, mate, really. Although I would say he looked beat, didn't he? And his attitude was really good to get up. So there is that, but he won't be screaming beating Zana here and the likes at the top of the Triumph market money at the minute. So yeah, meh, like you say.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth. I think it's really important to mention this sort of stuff. We'll definitely talk about this when we talk about another horse, just about how forward horses might be. So the main reason why I prefer the jumps racing to the flat racing is flats. You get babies that are racing. We don't really know what they're doing. We don't know how far forward they are, etc., etc. Admittedly, in the training scheme of National Hunt horses, we don't know how far forward or back they might be. Loads of bumper horses that will be jumping hurdles before they've even run in a bumper. There'll be some that don't. Just as a quick example, someone like this Tritonic was placed at the Royal Ascot Festival. I mean, this horse has been racing and he's wound up and is fit. Not always the case for these juveniles. Now, I know lots come over from France, but it's just something to bear in mind a little bit with horses' performances and the amount of like next progression. Lots of horses first time up in a juvenile, you'd expect to come on for the run. Sometimes in a competitive race, you expect them to come on a bit more. Something like this, for me, it's already got all the flat form. Meh is still the answer. So boom, that's 2 races covered. I need to quieten up a little bit. Next one from you, Matt.
The Clarence House, I suppose, will go next, mate. And what a strange race it was. Sorry, mate. Got to be mentioned, though, hasn't it? But I think I texted you as soon as they went off and running. I said they've given too much rope. Given too much rope, I said, I think. Something like that, didn't I? And look, I don't think Deffy would have won the race anyway. But I don't get the purposefully giving the horses who are going to lead that much of an advantage. If you make them make the running, don't give them an easy lead. And I don't think it would have made any difference on this occasion, and especially with First Flow surprising everyone. But I never understand that, holding them up quite so far and giving the ones who want a lead an easy lead. Make it a stamina test. We know Deffy's got extra stamina over 2.5. That's not an issue for him. So I'd like to see him a little bit close to the pace, but all in all, just what a strange result that I just didn't see coming. I don't think a lot of people saw it coming. I've never been Politolog's biggest fan, and it just makes me think that none of them in that race are good enough to win a champion chase. And
that's the painful thing about it, isn't it? Like, because obviously everyone's got different perception of how good they rate horses. Like Politolog's 169-ish, I think. Waiting Patiently is like 168. Deffy's about 168. They're all in around about a pound of each other. But I think there'd be a varying scale of, you could speak to 9 people just because there's 3 horses, and you'd get 3 different people saying each one of those horses might potentially be better. Politolog's obviously 2-time Tingle Creek winner, champion chaser. Potentially you could say they're weak ones. But in the fact that First Flow beat him made me feel a tiny bit better, just for the fact that I don't see like Politolog as this absolute worldie of a horse. So as much as I didn't think the First Flow should beat him, part of it was just a little bit like, that doesn't shock me quite as much as how far back, probably even Waiting Patiently and Deffy were. I haven't looked at the pace of it in comparison to other races. I just remember Deffy's Clarence House last year with Underso, the big, I don't know whether it was Paul Town and Willie Mullins that said it after, but the big talking point was the fact that how slow they went in the Clarence House last year. And Underso the year before just went out like the clappers, and that's why he looked so impressive. And obviously he's a 3-time Clarence House winner. One of them was at Cheltenham. I'm starting to wonder a little bit now whether maybe the reason why Deffy looked so good in the race last year is because they went such a crawl, and the fact that they've gone so fast now. I mean, I haven't gone back to even look at his Tingle Creek run, but I'm just starting to worry a little bit about Deffy in a real championship pace race, whether that's the reason why he's just being exposed as not so good. And then he should potentially be in the same bucket as I'm slandering Politolog. Maybe his performances haven't been as good up to now. But I'd definitely say that you can't, like that form, that result is not in the slightest bit literal.
No.
He's 156 rated, the First Flow that's gone and won it. Now, Paul Nicholls wound me up after the race. I don't know, and again, it's all speculation. That's the whole point of these things, isn't it? I reckon he was like pissed off with how the race panned out, because I think he feels like it ruined the race for Politolog. They thought Politolog maybe get an uncontested lead. Not that he deserved to get an uncontested lead, but as he said after, didn't he, we were beat by a better horse, can't make excuses. They all thought they went off too quick. We all did. And then they end up finishing first too, didn't they? And then but the thing that wound me up was when he was like, we get beat by a younger, improving horse, like an up-and-coming horse. Deffy Desoy is a year younger than First Flow. So, I mean, I know he's been there and done it a bit more. First Flow, that was his 11th chase start. So he's had 10 chase starts before that. Underso won his first Clarence House when he had 6. But most Deffy, I think, had 9. but most horses like are around those sort of numbers. So it's not like he's this new unexposed horse. He was 156 rated, the lowest ever Clarence House Chase winner since it wasn't a handicap. I think it was Tamarin Blur, David Pipes. That was 159 rated. That was 56 lengths beat in a champion chase after that, and it didn't win another race until it went in a handicap of 145. All I'm saying is the Clarence House is a decent race. Normally, there's better 2 mile chases in there than arguably was this year, but First Flow is not a worldie in the slightest. He picked up the pieces there. I don't even know if tactically it was smart or what it was. It was just a weird looking race, but probably can tell that I'm just disgruntled. And it's not because of Deffy. Deffy's annoying me now because I'm worried that it's the pace thing with him. But yeah, it's just a stupid result and just a stupid race. But not quite as stupid as Galley Hill, was it?
No,
we're talking about my selections going pants. We'll not talk about him too much because I'm going to end up eating the whole episode up talking about this. But we said on the profit and loss sheet, etc., we don't really want to be putting up non-runner money back ones unless they're the top price, just for the sake of saving a point. What's the point? We do talk about the fact that we bet these with certain bookmakers because you have the potential for a cash out. I posted the comments in after the race suggesting what Nicky Henderson had mentioned. So maybe a few people that have backed it may have been able to get themselves out of position. We're here to try and give you guys the best punt at the time, which is not always easy to do when we're conscious of what other shows are putting up, although it's only one that we're trying to swerve away from. But I feel like with Galley Hill, like it was kind of the right thing to do, back in with the potential for a cash out there. But I was like clutching at straws a little bit to put him up in the first place, not making excuses myself now, but it wasn't the most confident selection. It was a bit punty, and the way that it's panned out has exposed me as a punty tipster for last week's effort. But I can assure you that's not always the case, as you'll hopefully find out in this week's selection. There must have been some better racing than this for us to talk about. I'm miserable talking about my poor ones.
Royal Pagaille, got to mention, definitely. Yeah. And I purposely didn't ask you before when we was chatting, where do you think he'll go? And where would you go if he was yours?
I'll go back to Venetia Williams and he can just wait for a little while, can't he? So like, the thing is, again, talked about with Tectonic, these horses like the flat and it gone on. He's a third season novice chaser. How anyone was not expected, like I say, I don't want to sound crash like I knew at the beginning of the season he was going to be rated 166, but how anyone was that surprised with the scale of progression when you've got a horse that's had so much chase experience. They're entitled to be much further forward than their competitors. Now, admittedly, the handicap that he's gone and won, he's not running against novices the last race that he's run, but he's doing it on dead ground and he's clearly ahead of his mark. Is he worthy of the 166 rating that he is now? Not at all. And even if the Cheltenham Festival came up an absolute bog, there'd be better class horses that will find him out. If he goes to Cheltenham, there's only one race he should go in, and it should be the Gold Cup. And it's fully to expose the fact that he isn't anywhere near the mark that he should be. If National Hunt Chase wouldn't suit him either, I don't think. And again, off those sort of like that figure, like he could be capable of running a nice race now. I just think if you've got this horse that's officially rated 166, you have to go for the race that he should be going for. You can't have a 166 rated horse in a National Hunt Chase. I just don't think he's got a chance in the Gold Cup. I just don't think he's that good. But we'll find out. It'd be interesting in a national further down the line, maybe. But
I tend to agree. I think they will go Gold Cup with him, but I think he should go National and Chase.
Nah.
Do you not think?
Well, potentially. Look, if he's not 166 rated, he's definitely 150 rated. And then if I stuck him in a National Hunt Chase, he would go well. It's the ground thing, isn't it? He needs bad ground, whichever distance he runs in. And if the ground comes up so bad that they want to run him at the Cheltenham Festival, they're not going to have a better chance with this horse than going in off this sort of form to have a poke at a Gold Cup, I suppose. And there's no guarantees the horse will make it the following season. All those bits and pieces. I would just think as an owner for Rich Reekie, he wants to win a Gold Cup. Did it with Jack Adam all those times, didn't he? And he's got a potential horse to do it. Imagine you stuck him in the National Hunt Chase and he won by 20 lengths and you're just sat there thinking, I could have run him in the Gold Cup.
That's why I think they'll go Gold Cup, and because they've got Monkfish potentially next year as well. So stick Royal Pagaille in the Gold Cup this year, Monkfish.
But I would also say, if it's not soft ground all over, he won't even run at Cheltenham, and it needs to be soft all over. If there's any good to soft in the description, they won't even send him there. I don't think. Nah. The thing is, he jumps really nice for a novice, but again, third season novice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he should. I think he will end up in the Gold Cup. He probably should go there, given the fact of his official rating. I think you'd be a mug to send him to the National Hunt Chase personally. And I know it's about winning races for the punters, isn't it? Like you want to run him in the race they've got the best chance of winning. But I think with this particular horse, maybe Rich Reeky's just like, I don't really care. I want a Gold Cup winner, so stick as many darts in that as I can. And it's not even going to win, is it? Let's be honest. Move on.
All right, mate. All right. I would quite fancy him in a National Hunt Chase, but yeah.
Maybe. And I think there's a few people that are holding tickets on it, and I wouldn't be, or I would. I'd be jealous of people that have got him at a big price for National Hunt Chase if he did turn up, because he would probably win a National Hunt Chase if he went there. I just think that because of that performance and because of what his official rating is now, you'd be a bit mad not to try your hand in a Gold Cup.
Yeah. No, I think that's what they'll do. Yeah, fair enough. Play.
Because otherwise you're admitting defeat, aren't you? You're basically saying the horse isn't as good as his official mark, and you've not even asked him to try yet. Yeah. I think it's rude. I think it's just a bit rude to the horse, but it's pocket talk for a lot of people now, isn't it? I haven't got a penny on him. I wouldn't back him for Cheltenham, but I think most people that would like to see the National Hunt Chase have backed him for the National Hunt Chase. And I know that's like almost a given, isn't it? We want to see him running the races that we perceive as their best chance, but after the fact that he's got such a high rating now, it'd just be scandalous not to run him in a Gold Cup.
Yeah, probably right, mate.
But he won't go to the festival. Don't worry about that. Anything else to review results-wise? I mean, I'm sick of it now, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was about it, mate. Anyway,
we missed some bits in Ireland, didn't we? Because there was action cancelled, weren't there? And there's some nice races coming up soon over the next few days. Galmoy hurdles coming up. There's the Kinloch Bray that wasn't run. We've got Allaho going up. Easy games in there. Like there's some nice pointers coming out. Allaho in tomorrow's race, providing obviously all goes ahead. Get the £5 off of the other kids. Yeah. And the trip-wise thing as well. I think a lot of people, even last year, thought that he probably should go for a marsh, not an RSA. So now that he's finally going back to that trip, it's going to answer the questions that lots of people have been saying, whether he is going to be better over a shorter trip. So that'll be interesting to see. But getting the £5, and the fact that he is probably, well, I'm saying he's a better horse than the others. He's not miles clear. But what I'm trying to say is, I think he should hack up tomorrow. Yeah. And I'd be disappointed if it wasn't a bridal job and it wasn't like 5 to 10 lengths clear.
No, agreed. Start of the season, Min and Allaho were the two I wanted against the field for the Ryanair. If you put Min in there on those terms, what would you be expecting? You'd be expecting him to bolt up, wouldn't you, for me? So Allaho needs to be doing similar, I think, to reignite his claims for the Ryanair for me. Agreed.
And then St Calvados, one that everyone else was talking about, so close to Min last year, ended up in the Cotswold Chase. That's exactly what you want to see if you backed him for the Ryanair, isn't it? Heavy, dead ground, and he's putting him over 3 mile 1 and a bit.
They've got to be seen if he stays for the Gold Cup, aren't there? There must be that.
But even if they don't actually run him, because I think they would be, well, maybe they'd be right. I think they'd be balmy to run him in the race full stop because of how bad the ground's going to be, as in like your first test at that sort of trip. But even just the entries a bit, you'd never see Min ended up for a Gold Cup trip, would you?
No. I think that's the only thing I can think that it's one last, if he runs, one last shot to see if he stays the Gold Cup trip. And if he doesn't, then Ryanair.
Weird one, isn't it? But fair play to him. It's just interesting to see it when we're talking towards those ones. So coming up to the weekend action, there's obviously 2 days of Doncaster. We've got the, Solarina Mares Novice Hurdle, where Gal Louise is going to take on Royal Kahala, or Kalalala, whatever it is. That'll be interesting because obviously I put up Gal Louise. I think we've mentioned it a couple of times that Patrick Mullins' comments that come out since when he's been talking about her didn't really fill me with any confidence that she's a bit of a worldie, which she's probably going to be to win that race. But it's a nice form line into Cheltenham anyway. That'll be basically whichever one of those, well, whoever wins that race is the top Mares Novice contender for Cheltenham, bar none. There's nothing else anywhere else that looks above and beyond. There's no real standout contender anyway, really, is there? But that's the best form line I think we're going to see all season. So hopefully Gal Louise does it. There's a couple of other bits in Ireland as well, but before I keep waffling about that, and before we talk about Cheltenham Festival Trials Day, Shishkin.
Yeah.
Excited to see him go?
Yeah. I mean, he's one of them that you almost expect him to get the job done easily, aren't you? And you'd be disappointed if he doesn't again. So you're just looking if he jumps well again, whether he powers away at the end again, and then it's job done, and then it's on to Cheltenham. I don't know what else we can find out from what is the task he's got on Saturday. To be honest with you, it's
first time jumping left.
Yeah, good point.
Which we haven't seen with like an Envoy, and not that it should be a worry, but I obviously got berated last week for saying that Envoy jumps too well. That wasn't exactly what I meant. It was more the fact that I like to see him make, so I'm not going into it again. But with like Shishkin was obviously like balloon defence, done on like novice bits. It will be more informative to know. Like I want to see him go left-handed first time over fences. Not that I think that there's going to be any niggles or any concerns or anything, but you find out with certain horses if they jump in a direction when they go the other way around.
Yeah.
So we'll just see. I can't imagine it being a problem. Eldorado Allen, I'm very interested to see him go in there as well, because not that I would expect that he should be able to get anywhere near Shishkin. I would still think that he's a useful enough horse in my estimations that if Shishkin goes and demolishes someone like him, it's enough for me to say that it's some depth. Like Eldorado Allen, and we compare him to the Envoy thing. I shouldn't keep saying Envoy's name, so I'm going to get berated again. But like Phil's Dudery that he beat, I know he gave him £11, but he was beating like a 130s horse. Now Eldorado Allen hasn't won anything substantial off of his like 150s mark. But if we take £10 off of that, he is a 140s horse. So it's a 140s yardstick for Shishkin. I suppose with the weight terms that they'd be racing on, Envoy obviously gave the other one 11, so they'd be similar level yardsticks, wouldn't they? But if Shishkin goes and absolutely trounces something like Eldorado Allen, then it just reiterates how good he is. But yeah, you'd be shocked to see if he didn't win there. But it's just ones like that, they're lovely races just to sit back and watch, aren't they? Because you're just finding out a bit about them, learning a little bit more.
Yeah, nervously watching him for me and for you, I would think as well. But yeah, and I suppose Eldorado Allen's got the form with All Mankind as well. I need to tie in a little bit. So yeah, it'd be nice to see him bolt up again, to be honest with you.
Yep, and then there is one other race at Doncaster, the Yorkshire Rose Mares Hurdle. That's a grade 2. When Marie's Rock that I put up as that stupid poke for the Mares Hurdle. Now was it Midland Park Racing have come out and said that she's a proper 2-miler is what they've been banging on about, and they think that she's potentially graded class. So this is obviously the bread and butter for mares, grade 2 sort of level, and then over the 2 miles, like she's got no excuses for that race there. I would just say that her jumping was so bad at Newbury. Like I actually was feeling sick, a bit of exaggeration, but I just watched it and I was just like, this is bad. Like as bad a horse I've seen hurdle for a long time. So not saying that like class wise, obviously I'll put her up as an outside one for the mares. Like I would fancy her to win this race. I would just be very skeptical because I think she's going to be shortish of people that are backing her this weekend. Like she's definitely one that I just want to watch and see what she did. So I think it's just worth mentioning that, because I know people like their Saturday bet and will put some bets on. And I don't want to put people off of it necessarily. Just go back and watch that Newbury run before you put a bet on her and then decide if you want to stick your pence in. There's the Riverdon, which is another grade 2, Albert Bartlett trial. This is a race I love every single year. 2 reasons. Reason the first, none of these are going to win at Cheltenham. So it rules them out. Like let something win well, but let everyone else start tipping it up. But you get some nice types in it, and they're all like from a ratings perspective, it's normally like, and it is exactly that this year, 135 is the top. You get, if anything can run to 140, it's going to win this by a few lengths. But you always, like the bottom end of the scale, you've always got some like nice enough horses in here. So what I'm trying to say is there'll be probably like £7 genuinely between the whole field, but you'll get something that will go and bound well clear. Just the nature of the way the race is. So there's a couple of ones that could be semi-interesting there. Flash Collonge I want to see run, because I think that will run quite nicely. And Exploiter for Graham McPherson, like this, I think the track of everything will suit it, but Exploiter would want proper, really bad dead ground, I think. And then Flash Collonge, I think I don't want to say exposed because that's a bit harsh on him, but I think this will just show the level of form that he's at. He should be winning this race. I'd make him like fab for this for definite, especially when he's finally declared he will be fab. But as I say, he'll probably go and win by a few lengths. Everyone will be like, well, Albert Bartlett winner. Just stop. Just calm yourself down. Back him on Saturday and then leave it alone after that.
No, I'm glad you said that at the start, mate. So when I flicked through it earlier today, I just thought there's nothing that I like for Cheltenham in there they'd have to do something absolutely world beating to get me interested. There's nothing in there that interests me for Cheltenham at all.
But what'll happen is, mate, there'll be 130s horses in behind. Something will go and win by a few lengths. It'll end up with a 140 rating. People will start going through their Albert Bartlett form. They're going, oh look, Hardy Battler, 140 rating.
Yeah.
So not saying for definite, but definitely won't win the Albert Bartlett whoever wins that. So let's quickly do Cheltenham as a preview because it's Festival Trials Day. So it's a big one, and there's normally lots of pointers that go through to the festival as a main. Again, I touched on earlier about the ground, and like concerns the wrong thing, but the closer it gets to Cheltenham and the more of these meetings we're getting, abandoned. I know some of it's frost and all that sort of stuff, but there's lots of wet ground out there. The more you have to start thinking to yourself, this is going to play out one of two ways, this Trials Day meeting. It's either going to be really good form for us going into Cheltenham because it's bad ground, and the same as the Dublin Racing Festival will be, although slightly better horses probably running there, or it's going to be irrelevant stuff because we're going to get small fields because the background's so bad, and they'll be running on something different at Cheltenham. But it's the entries of it actually do excite me quite a bit for a few of them. So do you want to have a mention for the juvenile, the grade 2? Because obviously we've got Adagio, Nassalam reopposing after the finale at Chepstow. What do you think of those two? I know there's others to talk about, but do you reckon that Nassalam with the £5 pool makes enough of a difference or not?
Yeah, I think it might make it close, mate. Who's staying on again at the end, wanting Nassalam. I don't think either are good enough for a triumph, but I'd say it will be very close between the two. Interested to see Nick Henson's Heroes de Soul again, see how he gets on. He came to last and the other horse fell, didn't it, last time? So whether or not he'd have won that day, but I'd like to see him go again. But again, Dave, I think the Irish are the better of the juveniles. So whether or not it translates to triumph success, I won't be so sure whoever wins that. But I think it will be very close between those top two, and Heroes de Soul, the one to look out for improving second time.
Yeah, nice. And good balls obviously in there. We're supposed to run at Wincanton tomorrow. Wise guys picked for Boodles. Not running in the handicap tomorrow. So whether they are forced to come here because of timing wise towards Cheltenham, or whether they'll look for another handicap somewhere else, not 100% sure. I feel like what's the point in entering in for this race if it wasn't like back up for Wincanton being called off? So kind of like to see him run just to see. There's a couple of other ones in this race I think are worth mentioning, and this is basically ended up being like a weekend preview in it. But sage advice for Richard Newland, reasonable money purchase, won pretty impressively the last day. Kentucky something else was in behind it that was around about the same price. They're almost joint favourites, but I think that horse underperformed. Now, Sage Advice is another one that was running in Ireland on the flat, so it's got that flat thing again entitled to be a bit more forward. But this horse is going to be like a 3 or 4 to 1 poke for this race, maybe a bit bigger if everything else turns up. Laylac for Dan Skelton that's rated 118. This horse was behind Goodbye Stranger at Newbury, and I think the time people said that was a reasonable performance in that race. Then at Wincanton, wasn't really that great, but again, I think time people reckon that was quite good. But this Laylac bled as well and was only beaten 6 lengths, so obviously you don't want to bleed her, but actually stayed on in the run-in and it was bleeding. So I mean, it's not literal, but I would suggest that horse, if it hadn't bled, probably could have won that race. And again, like Sage Advice, it's come from running on the flat, so again, entitled to be a tiny bit more forward, but it only had the one spin. What I'm trying to get at with this Laylac is it's going to be a massive price on Saturday, and I think it potentially could well outrun its odd. Now, the fact that it's a bleeder, pinch of salt sort of thing in it, but I just think it's like a fairly interesting one. And then obviously I said about good ball for a Boodles thing, like Laylac's enough on my radar that I think I want to see it run on Saturday, with a view that if it runs okay and a few lengths behind, no one's going to be like, the bookies aren't going to be shortening for the Boodles off the back of a defeat, but we might be thinking, oh, it might be worth having a poke on him. But given the fact that he bled and he's going to have to show something here, he's not one that I would have backed before now, and he's not one that I'd be putting up as a selection. I'd just say on Saturday, watch the race and then just have a little second glance at him, because if he runs reasonably in the background and we find out that he hasn't bled after the race, so if he's overcome that, then he could be one interesting for a punt at some point. And then Heroes de Soul, that you've obviously already mentioned, they keep entering in these novice races as well. And I know we get the 3-year-old allowance. It feels like they're almost gearing down the line of Supreme. They're trying to think, aren't they? Like, Fakir Doudry won this before and then went into a Supreme. Like, I don't like the juveniles running in a Supreme, but we've touched on it before that it looks weakish this year. So it'd be interesting to see him run in this race because if he's going to run in this and then he's going to go and run in a Supreme, he'd have to be hacking up in this. So if he gets declared, like it couldn't be a punting race from a win perspective. Laylac I'd be semi-interested in, maybe play something on the exchange on him. But yeah, Heros de Sol, you'd think if those vibes of the people are coming along the lines of that he might go Supreme-ish, he'd have to be dotting up in this, wouldn't he? So I think it's going to be interesting, very interesting. And I wouldn't write off Nathalam. I know you said obviously with the £5 swing he could get close to staying on a bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
I spoke to a couple of people about his performance at Chepstow, and a few people think he didn't really handle the downhill there. That was the first time he got into an actual horse race, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it's definitely an interesting one. But again, like you say, ain't getting near the Irish, are they? One race we will be getting near the Irish, and I say near at the start of the race. We'll be nowhere near at the finish. We'll be so far clear. Cleve Hurdle. I don't want to talk about this for too long because Paisley just wins.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see what's going to get near him. I'd like to see something else in there to test him a bit, to be honest with you, but I can't see anything getting near him in that.
So hopefully just a formality. I'm glad he's running in there because not that I would say it should be a worry, but again, just weird trail of thought in the head. Well, not that weird. People should be thinking it. The issue that he suffered last year was obviously at Cheltenham Racecourse. Horses do have the memories. They know sort of thing that's happened. So it'll be nice to see him back at Cheltenham just to see how he gets on, how he reacts. And if he's going to have a bit of a wobble like first time back, I suppose it's little things like in it. Like if someone got stuck in a lift, the next time they went in a lift, they might be a little bit cautious of it. Most people wouldn't be bothered, but I'd rather him go there before Cheltenham than not. So yeah, good to see him going up there, to be fair. Not that I'm saying I'd want to be taking him on like I'm worried about him. I'm not. He should be fine with it. And of course, we have the old me waffling, which I'll do after the race, about the distance of the final hurdle, but we'll worry about that for another time. Cotswold Chase, Nicky Henderson up to his old tricks again. Probably won't run because the ground's too bad.
Yeah. But then what does he do with him then? He's going to have to run in.
You know what's going to happen. You know.
Should
I tell you again?
Yeah.
My magic crystal ball, which I've polished up for this evening's episode. Santini runs in the Denman Chase. Nicky Henderson doesn't run his horses against each other. Champ got the entry in the Stairs Hurdle.
Man.
Presenting Percy went to the Gold Cup as 100-30 favourite off the back of one run from being a novice to a Gold Cup. Look at Presenting Percy now. Rest in peace. Shouldn't say that. But the horse is a shadow of his former self. Like, he's gone, isn't he? It ruined him doing that. And Champ, they took their time with him as a novice. What I said about the 7-year-old thing in the Ballymore, they took their time with him. They're going to get one poke at this horse winning a Gold Cup. They're not going to be thinking, let's win it over and over again. And I know this is like sort of clutching at straws and reading this stuff that's probably not there, but I just feel like I want to air it out there because on my balmy trail of thought, I feel like Nicky Henderson feels like Santini because he was second in the Gold Cup has got to go in a Gold Cup again this year. Whereas I think Santini's all kinds of out of sorts. Ran okay in George, to be fair. Whereas I almost feel like with Champ, they could potentially think to themselves, maybe we'll just wait for next year. But they'll have the same problems next year. Where do they run him for a race before? So not saying it will happen, but I just wanted to say it could happen. Just like to spit things out there. If anything, mate, it will get us a few more comments, so that gets a bit more reach on YouTube. So
I mean, anything's possible with Nicky Henderson this season, really. I mean, it could. I'd be devastated to see that, Dave. To be honest with you, I'd want to see.
I would as well. I want to see Champ in a Gold Cup. I want to see Santini in a Gold Cup. I want to see him run Santini on Saturday. Nicky Henderson's got a problem, anyway, and it's because he talks more than I do. He needs to learn when to shut up. I could give him a few. Maybe I couldn't. Maybe we'll get him on next week. Anywho, it's an interesting looking race, isn't it? Bristol de Mai, just the Cheltenham thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Native River, it's just the age Colin Tizard thing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking at this race just feeling like something could run well at a bigger price, or like say less known, like a less likely winner. Obviously, Lakeview Lad did what he did, but at Aintree where he beat Native River and Santini, he's going to be a biggest price. So with the way the penalty things fall now, he's going to have a bit of work to do. But I don't know. I wouldn't be punting in the race. I was strong on Santini in it last year. Won't be punting it. I don't think there's any value, but I reckon it's a interesting enough race, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of a shock. If there's not a shock, then I'd think Bristol de Mai should hack up. But
no, I thought the same, mate. Going down, I thought I don't fancy anything at the head of the market, but there's nothing at a price that you'd feel strongly enough to back. But it wouldn't surprise me if something does dot up at a price, to be honest with you.
Imagine St. Calvados won it. Imagine the scenes.
Yeah. I don't know.
But he's way too short, isn't he?
He's too short to find out if he stays or not. That's the problem. Well,
and the thing with this race as well, you get wide margin winners, you get wide margins back to third as well. You could easily get the front two that do stay the trip, finishing 20 lengths clear of him back in third, picks up his each way money, so the bookmakers are a bit stuffed with it. Interesting one. Is there anything else at Cheltenham for Trials Day you wanted to mention? Because there's only one other thing I was going to mention. There's the two handicap chases. There's a novice handicap chase and an all-age one, which are over the same trip. A couple of horses will be doubly entered in there. They are normally really good pointers towards the Cheltenham Festival. So have a deeper look through those when we get final declarations and get yourself a bit of a steer to which ones you fancy in those races, and then look at the any race stuff or look at your Brown Advisory stable plate. The fact that the Close Brothers race has now gone out means that stable plate's probably going to be a bit more condensed this year, I suspect. That's the repercussions of them taking the novice handicap chase away, which they already said was too condensed. But what I mean by that is last year Imperial Aura was not trying in the race, didn't want to win. Obviously paid up nicely for March. This time round, I reckon there could be a few more that, I know it's not massive prize money, but there'll be a few more I think that this could be a day they might be winning in. So interesting one nonetheless. What we're going to need to do is, because I've been wabbling too long, this recording is going to end, but we're going to go on to our selections coming up now anyway, and this is the perfect opportunity for me to say, for the third time, we will be with you with our selections after this short commercial break. So we're back from that short commercial break. Thank you very much for your continued support. Subscribe, like, comment, etc., etc. Beautifully constructed by me this week. We didn't talk about Sunday's action. At Naas, there's two grade threes. There's a Limestone Lad, which has been used by Espoir de Land before to go and win a champion hurdle. But another race that's interesting on the Sunday is the grade 3 beginners chase, because Pentonville Led, horse you put up for the National Hunt Chase, is running in there. Do you know what? I was going to let you go first for a selection, but this has actually shoehorned it nicely in for me. So my first of many selections this week runs in that race this Sunday. Now, I don't really know how to word this. We want to keep this show to be like professional, I guess. But at the end of the day, we're just mugs, and we just work, and then we just like talking horses. So we're talking about it. And I don't want to be like putting up a selection and then talking about it negatively after, which I know I've done on plenty of them. But basically, what I want to say with this one is, or with any of the selections, is I'm going to be putting up for a price. They'll stick on the list. These ones that I'm putting up this week are available non-runner money back at the same top price. So potentially if they didn't run, I could take the point off, but I don't really care from the level stake thing. It's more about the advicey thing. And half of the reason for this one for the weekend is the non-runner money back exception, because if the horse is woeful, which I don't expect it to be, but say something happens and I've got it completely and utterly wrong, and then it doesn't even come to Cheltenham, then what's the point? You don't want to be backing it with a potential cash out because that. Anywho, waffled already too much. It's a Clay de Rear for Henry de Bromhead that runs in that grade 3 on Sunday. Now, the reason I'm talking about the cash outs, all those bits and pieces, is who knows? They might not even run it on Sunday. Yeah. But he's already qualified for the National Hunt Chase, which is the race that I'm putting it up for. It is, I need to double check the price. I think it's 25 to 1 non-runner money back. I think it's 25 to 1 everywhere, maybe 28 to 1 with Bet365, but I wouldn't worry about the cash out concession bonus from them, because you can get the cash out from Paddy Power Betfair and you get the non-runner money back. So a Claire de Rear for Henry de Bromhead. Now, it's very lightly raised, won't be on too many horses' radars. Already qualified for this, as I've just mentioned, because it's won a chase over 3 mile 1.5. Beat Schoolboy Hours, beat that horse quite comfortably. Now, this looks just like a plodder, just stays and stays and stays type of horse. Even when it won its point to point, it was just getting on top again, close home. But it gallops and it goes quite nicely through its races as well. I think it just looks like a National Hunt Chase type of horse. Now, I know Galvin's there at the head of the market, been there, done that at Cheltenham. This horse doesn't have that much experience, but they banged in a couple of maiden hurdles last year. Fairly late bloomer into its point in November 2019, it ran in that, and it is now a 7-year-old. So obviously they wanted to get it over fences. It's just had that one run, so it's bound to improve from that. Maybe it wants bad ground as well. So again, the non-runner money back, if the ground doesn't come up right for it, Cheltenham doesn't come over, and you probably want to have yourself covered on that front. as opposed to trying to use the cash out aspect of it. But we could end up with a wettish festival, and there's no reason to suggest that it wouldn't like quicker ground. In the breeding, there's lots of stuff in there to suggest that it could probably handle a bit better. And also in the breeding, there's just loads of stamina laden horses. Like, this is an absolute plodder, probably like national type horse for future reference. Now, there's a few horses they also beat on that day when it won. Like Run Wild Fred was miles back, but from like a ratings perspective, it's beaten like 130s horses fairly convincingly. And like I said, it was on its first start over fences, fairly unexposed. I think it's probably, like I say, not going to be on many people's radars, but I think after Sunday, especially if Pencil for the Lead does line up, and if this horse runs it close or runs near it, or potentially, God forbid for Matt, it beats it, all of a sudden everyone's be thinking, wow, it could be a nice horse for the National Hunt Chase. So Eclair de Rire goes in for the National Hunt Chase. As I say, like, maybe it's a little bit punty, and the reason I'm talking about the fact of the non-runner money back thing is we're at that time of year now where the concession's there that's available. It is the top price of it. For the purpose of this, like, I'm backing it. I fancy it. I'd be stout enough to say that I think it should go and run well in a National Hunt Chase. But of course, it's had one start over fences. You want to see a little bit more. How much we're going to find out on Sunday, we don't know. But I just think this is the sort of horse that is too big a price. Really interesting for Sunday as it is. And I need a selection of the National Hunt Chase, because if next destination goes RSA, I mean, that could go either way, couldn't it? They may even bypass Cheltenham altogether and go to Aintree with that horse. But I think this Eclair de Rire just looks interesting enough that I want to get him on the team sheet. So, Matt, he is going in. What do you think of them apples, Pencil for the Lead boy?
Well, like you said, it wasn't one that was on my radar, Dave, and you brought him to my attention. So, but with you saying that it'll sort of stay all day, it's not always the cream that rises to the top in the National Hunt Chase anyway. So he may be one under the radar who is just a bit of a dour stayer and is staying on the best at the end.
And I think as well, like, look, he's already qualified, so that's fine with him.
Mm-hmm.
There's top four in it with the qualification rules. But you look at the names of some of the other ones that are in there, like Asteria Forlonge is in there.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine that, having to jump round all the fences in the National Hunt Chase, or trying to get round. Eurobot was a nice win in the first time, and I think he's an okay-ish horse, but everything else fell in the race that day. Then he unseated the last time. Like, I don't think it looks that deep a race. So I'd expect this Eclair de Rire to run fairly well, and not meaning that's definitely going to mean that he's going to go and beat a Galvin. But from a performance perspective, if I don't think the field's really that up to that much, and this horse I'm expecting to go close or run fairly well, then I think just the lines with this being the race that Carefully Selected went in to qualify, talk's going to come about of it. If he did go and win it by a few lengths and looked okay-ish, then it might be a horse that I think everyone might start to band onto for National Hunt Chase. So he is my first selection for the week. Now, I talk too much. We've gathered that. Subscribe, like, and follow, comment, etc., etc. That will shut me up. If we get to 1 million subscribers by next week's episode, I won't talk. Matt, how many have you got this week?
2.
Okay, I won't do both mine then. You can bang in now. Who have you got this week, Matt? First up, is it your best one going first, or is it no particular order?
No particular order, really. First one's Coco Beach, who I'm going to put up any race. Also has form ties in with Pencil for the Lead, actually, going on from that. But it finished last season, finishing 9th in the Coral Cup. In a season it's always tough in it for horses coming out of juvenile company, but stayed on well in that race, particularly as he's hampered, I think, 2 out. And the season before, he'd finished second to well-fancied Band of Outlaws and in the Boodles. So we know Cheltenham as a track's not an issue for him. He made his chasing debut this season up to 2 miles 7 at Galway with Gordon Elliott saying beforehand that he thought that would be his trip this season and they'd likely need the run. We actually run really promisingly 3/4 length second to Pencil for the Lead, which obviously looks decent now with Pencil for the Lead a live chance now of the RSA or hopefully a National Hunt Chase. He then went on to run in the Drinmore over 2 mile 4, finishing 4th of 4 behind Envoy Allen, and then was beaten 18 lengths over 2 mile 3 by Espinito Bello. But what was notable that day, I thought, was that it was testing ground and some notable stayers in there, like Lord Royal, Long House Poet, were almost out on the feet by the end. But Coco Beach was able, whilst he didn't have the speed of the winner, he was able to stay on right to the end. Where, like I say, those in behind were really struggling to finish it off even. And then last time out, over 2 mile 5, he got racing with Henry de Bromhead's horse quite far out and actually got pipped. Both of them got pipped by Forza Milan on the line. So he's ended up with a handicap rating of 133 over fences for that, which I think is pretty fair, to be fair. Like I say, it's notable that Gordon Elliott had said before that first run that around 3 miles would be his trip, and he's run so well that first day with Pencil 4 led over 2 mile 7, and then he's dropped him back for the mid-range for the rest of his runs, which it just suggests that he's maybe that he's a stayer and he's trying to protect that handicap mark for him. Obviously, you always need to be aware of what the British handicapper will do, and he does run Thursday over 3 mile 1. So you'll have to see what he does there. But the Kim Muir is what I'm looking at him for, Dave, to be honest with you. But there's obviously the Ultima and the plate, obviously, as well. Gordon Elliott's got a really good record in the Kim Muir. He's had 10 runners in the last 8 renewals with 2 wins and 4 placed. And he won it last year with Milan Native, didn't he? So he would also run over intermediate trips before stepping up for the Kim Muir. So as long as they can keep his rating down, I think that's the way I'd look at going for him. But he's 33 for the Kim Muir. He's 25 to 1 any race. So I think that's the safe way to play it. But I definitely think it's a bit of a handicap plot job, and 25 to 1 any race will do for me.
Very interesting. And Forza Milan that you mentioned, he's the one that's in that race Sunday as well. So there's all interbred breeding that goes in with there, isn't it? He, like you say, runs on Thursday. It's the Theistis he runs in, isn't it? So that's back up 3 mile 1. So, like you say, probably crying out for the trip to go and do that, isn't he? I think off the top of my head, Gordon Elliott, Total Recall won it last, didn't he? I don't know whether Gordon Elliott's that prolific in the Theistis chase, and with what you're saying there, his mark already looks around about the rightish, didn't it? You'd probably want him to be getting beat Thursday, but obviously probably show a little bit of something a few lengths back, maybe. Yeah,
if he's going to go Kim Muir, but that's why you play the any race for that and a bit of insurance, especially when there's only a few points between. So yes, we'll see.
That is interesting. Any race as well. So, like you're saying, Kim Muir's probably the most likely one we think, isn't it? But there's Ultima there that's up a different trip as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
I'm just having a nose now at the Theistis chase. Gordon Elliott won it with Monbeg Notorious in 2018. So, being the snoopy little hooper that I am, I'm having a little look now to see what he did with that after. Because that was 137 rated, and that hacked up. Mm-hmm. Coco Beach is 138. That then won a novice grade 2 at Navan over 3 miles, and then didn't come over to Cheltenham. I mean, for the Monbeg race ever came over. So that would be the only. Would it be a concern for you? I mean, I know I shouldn't talk too much about your horses, but say Coco Beach hacks up on Thursday, do you think that ruins Cheltenham?
No, I don't think it ruins it. I don't think he'd win by a mile anyway, would he? So I don't think he's going to get pumped that badly on his mark regardless, but I would, like I say, I'd rather see him run promisingly in behind, shall we say, and that would be the ideal.
Yeah, fair play to you, mate. And obviously it has got form at Cheltenham already anyway. I quite like Coco Beach's horse, so to be honest with you, mate, I'm just trying to downplay it a little bit because I'm annoyed you've put it up. Great shout.
Cheers, mate. Cute.
But I'm not allowed to say stuff like that, am I? I'm not allowed to be nice to you. I'm supposed to give you abuse. So the best form of abuse that I can give you without getting myself into too much trouble is just to bam in with a winner. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to the onslaught I'm going to get for this. This would have been a very long episode. I don't even know how long it's going to take to upload this bad boy. So if anyone's surviving this long and listening to my tips, thank you very much. £10 free bet again. Not this week. No £10 free bets. Cost me too much last week. Basically, there's a few races we're getting to the point now, aren't we, where there's some races we need to start filling out with some selections in. Also, we're getting to the point now where, like, everyone and their dogs are starting to put tips up. So the timing that we decided to do this after Up in the Ante, just to be nice to them for the sake of it, because obviously we're copying their show, aren't we? Everyone is, isn't they, putting up Antepost bets? But now there's hundreds of people putting out selections like on the Monday night, the Thursday and stuff. So it's like we're going to reach a point now where multiple selections will be put up. They've been put up by other people. Not the case this week. No one's putting up my selection, but I'm just saying that for future reference. Like I'm giving less of a crap basically about the selections. Last week I ended up putting myself up for Galley Hill. I was going to put this horse up last week, but because the entries were coming in, I thought to myself, it's just my luck. It won't bloody get entered or something like that. Felt a bit negative last week about it, whereas now I'm just thinking, do you know what? Banging hundreds of selections, who cares? People want to know what I'm thinking at this moment. You all know how to play the game. Anywho, without further ado, it's the RSA. I'm putting one in. So I've already mentioned next destination that I've backed any race. Could go National Hunt Chase, could go RSA, could go entry. I've already banged some cover in the National Hunt Chase, haven't I? But I really think this is just way too big a price. Matt, I'm going to sell it to you without saying the name, because I think as soon as I mention the name, people are going to switch off. The RSA itself, normally, like we talk about the novice hurdlers and we talk about like 150 plus horses. In the RSA like chase, like 150s horses win the RSA chase. So as long as it's rated in around the 150s, you're doing all right. Horses that have been beaten in the season normally do all right in an RSA chase. Like, it's not necessarily a problem. Horses that have either run really well at the festival or have won at Cheltenham do really well in an RSA. This horse was beaten last time out, but you're okay, you're allowed, because actually beaten favourites in their last start before they go to the RSA do really well. Look at Champ last year, fell at 4-6 in the Dipper, didn't he? So I haven't been looking at the trends and then trying to find out a horse. I found this horse, then decided to look to the trends just for something to say in the episode. But Protectorat for the Skeltons is an offensive price. Like, it actually angers me. He was 50-1 last week before the entries came out, because obviously he's now got the entry. That price has shortened up, but you can get 33-1, and it's non-runner money back. Betfair, Paddy Power, with the casher in there. He's 33s across the board, which I know we've lost a bit of a price there, but hey ho, it doesn't matter. I don't think it's that big a problem. I still think 33s is too big. Now, I'm not an each way punter. I'm not suggesting specifically here to say for someone to back it each way, but if you were that way inclined, if you were to back this horse each way, obviously you lose the win part if it places, but you get £7.60 back for your £2. So you're bringing the price down to about an 11-4 poke, aren't you? If he goes and wins, and obviously you'd lose some of the win part because you put half of it on him placing, you'd get relative to like a 20-1 poke if you end up to win the race. So if you wanted to play your each way plays, then do as you wish, because he's obviously going to have to go quite well to beat Monkfish. But his performance at Cheltenham already this season, time-wise, the time boys were going mad over it. He was just ultra impressive. He jumped a bit left when he ran at Carlisle, and then he went to Wincanton, the last one, where he got beat by Mezidazobo over a trip that I knew was too short for him anyway. He was giving him £3, and he jumped left every single time again. Not enough to be like, whoa, this horse can't jump straight, but enough to say he's better left-handed, Dan. What are you doing, mate? Now, we know Chamblou won the Feltham, or the King George, or the kids' King George, Counterstar Novices Chase. And we know that winners of the Counterstar Novices Chase don't have such a great record in the RSA. Now, horses that get beaten, they do all right in the RSA. So I think that's why a lot of people are probably still not giving up on the big breakaway. But Chamblou, they've already said they're going to drop back in trip to take on Envoy. So Protectorat fills in there anyway with the RSA thing. Like, I'm pretty confident he comes here. He's 152 rated. And when you put that into the grand scheme of all the other horses that are in there, he's bang up there. He even got a Racing Post rating of 170. Which is on par with Monkfish. Like, I think he is genuinely a decent horse. The fact that he got beat the last day, just enough for people to probably have already written him off. 33s is a proper offensive. This horse should be genuinely no bigger than like a 14s poke in my eyes. I think when he does run in this race, people latch onto it. The slight reservation last week, I was thinking with the entries, and it was stupid. I was being a bit too indecisive, not like me. But I was being too indecisive, and I was looking at his 152 mark thinking, oh, maybe they're going to ruin me and stick him in the Ultima or something like that, like handicap, because novices do well in there. But then I was thinking after, he's going to need to have best part of £10 up his sleeve. He'd be so high rated that he might as well go in an RSA. So I'm pretty confident he will go RSA. Now we lost the 50s with Bet365 because he's been entered and it's shortened up. You got the benefit of the non-runner money back, which is, I just suggest doing it. If the top price is non-runner money back, then, and it's got cash out, like, it's an absolute no-brainer. But I proper think this horse has got a genuine chance. And I'm never going to tip up a horse that I don't think can win the race. Now, Monkfish does look really good. And the performance with latest exhibition, like, it was nice that he was up against another horse, and the fact that he was getting challenged. And he did keep putting it out. Paul Townend smile after the finishing line as well. Like I said, it all didn't, like, he was well away with him. So I do fully expect that Monkfish is the horse to beat. But I don't think for a minute that Monkfish is unbeatable. And I think Protectorat is just a stupidly big price. I think when you look at some of the other horses that are in behind it, something like the big breakaway, you're either on him in the summer at massive prices anyway, or now you've seen enough of his performances to actually worry you about backing him. I think if you go back and look at this Protectorat, what he did at Cheltenham, you could be impressed. And even if you look at the Mezidazobo race, that's an older horse entitled to be a bit better than what we think is just because he had the layoff. And I think actually Protectorat ran pretty well in that run. So I know I've warbled about him, but I'm actually quite sweet on Protectorat for the RSA, 33-1.
It's interesting what you said there about Messer Zobo being more forward than him, because I'm sure I've seen something where Dan Skelton has said that while Chamblou's more of like the finished article, that he thinks there's quite a bit of improvement. He's still learning his job for Protectorat and still more to come for him. So based on what he's done already, step up in trip, maybe a bit of a big baby and still improving anyway. 33-1, you can't really argue with it, can you? You don't need many reasons to back a 33-1 shot.
It's a monster price as well. Like I think it's a really, really big price. And like I said, I think he's done enough already to warrant he should be shorter price than that. I also think that he's going to go in this race. And it's another one of those that I just feel like the closer he gets to the festival in the next couple of weeks, people will be looking to put him up there. Like I know I've poo-pooed down Skelton when we did the like midterm preview thing for the festival. He is having a flying season this year. This is in the owners of like the right boxes. Ferguson's in there, etc. Like he's getting some better ammunition, and you wouldn't be surprised for Dan Skelton. Like he has won festival races more like the handicaps, but you'd expect him, especially this season, with him going so well. Like you'd think he might end up having quite a few regional results or elite horses running big races, and I think this is the sort of horse that would do that. I just think you have to get him on your team sheet at that sort of price. And like I said, I genuinely do think he has a chance of winning this race. Like it sounds bad because I put Next Destination up any race. Next Destination, if he goes to the National Hunt Chase, I'd like. I think if Next Destination and Protectorat ran in a match race in the RSA at Cheltenham, I think Protectorat would spank him. And Next Destination is 10-1 for this race, and my guy's 33. So Protectorat for the RSA. Have I said enough?
Yeah, no, that's fair play, mate. That.
Come on, one of these days we're going to disagree about something. So fingers crossed your next tip is an absolute howler. What is it, Matt?
It's Fury Road and Stayers Hurdle. So,
Irish.
Yeah, which it's sort of similar to like what you're saying about Monkfish. And obviously, those are the head of the market for the Stayers. A strong form. It looks a decent Stayers this year. But you go back to the Albert Bartlett form that Fury Road has with Monkfish, Latest Exhibition, Time Hill, and all of them have performed well this season. They're all near the top of the market for the relative races. And a lot was made of Time Hill's disruptive passage in the Bartlett, and rightly so, obviously. But watching the race back this week, Fury Road was just shuffled back a little and caught a bit flat-footed coming to the second last. Was just all of a sudden gave him a length to make up with Latest Exhibition and Time Hill, and at least a couple of lengths to make up with Monkfish. But by the time they got to the last hurdle, obviously he'd eaten that up. He'd obviously had to work to do that. And he actually ended up getting away from that last hurdle. Obviously, I don't need to tell you, he got away from that last hurdle the best. And actually half a length up before it. And he just drifted off a true line to his right. And ended up just getting nabbed on the line. So these are all like small things. But when forums finish that close, these little things can be the difference, obviously, between winning and losing. So just makes you wonder if having to make up that ground, being caught a little flat-footed, drifting off a true line, if that's just cost him in the end there. Now, the big thing is obviously you've got to forgive him that run at Leopardstown at Christmas. But he's run there 3 times now, finishing 10 lengths, 5th in a bumper. 5th, 5 lengths 4th behind Latest Exhibition at Dublin Racing Festival. And then 4th at Christmas behind Florian Porter. So it's obviously not his favourite track. And you'd hope you'd see an improving performance at Cheltenham again, like he did last year following his run at Leopardstown. Yeah. On top of that, Gordon's horses weren't in good form at the time either, with her. So you can't be 100% sure that he was, 100% well in himself. So if you're willing to forgive that run, I just think if he fits all the other trends on, he's a 7-year-old. So he's bang on in the age frame. The last 3 winners have come from the Albert Bartlett. He just shouldn't be a 20-1 shot for me. I think that form that ties in with Time Hill and Monkfish and Latest Exhibition. Yeah, I just think that's enough for me to take a punt that Leopardstown run clearly wasn't his form, and at 20-1, I just think he's worth a go at that day. To be honest with you, I don't think he'd be 20-1 on the day.
Absolutely not. No, it's a cracking shout, mate. And I know, obviously, we have this where we agree, don't we, quite often. But this is the other thing about when people are putting selections up and all that sort of thing. We're entitled to agree because we know what we talk about with horses. That's why lots of other people, whether it's on forums, web pages, we're going to have the same trail of thoughts because we're looking at the same sort of things. You're bang on with Fury Road, mate. Especially the Leopardstown thing doesn't particularly like it around there. I liked him for that bumper when he was beaten by 6 Shooter. The big getaway was in there as well. Like, his form goes all the way back. And actually, if you go back to that was the last time he ran on some quick ground, some better ground. His form before that and his bumpers and his point was on quicker ground. So, like, he handles anything. I know he looks like he probably wants a bit of slow, but I think he probably wants some normal ground. So, yeah, can't argue with that, mate. 20-1's monster price, especially considering he was sent off Fav at Christmas. And if he had have won that, because it would have been a track that he liked, he would have been a lot shorter, wouldn't he? So, can't blame you for putting that in. I'm going to wrap it up now, mate, because I've been waffling too long. We need to get this edited and put up. But the two selections that you put up, I won't even put the full list of selections up. You can see last week if you want to see what they are. I'll put those underneath below for us on here. And thank you very much for your guys' support. We'll be back next week with another episode.